Hello everyone and welcome to the Insta Gamers Network, and on today's show we're all talking about multiplayer games that we enjoy with only 2 players. So let's go ahead and find out what everyone else likes and what they enjoy in a 2+ player game but only with 2 players.
Hey friends, Chubby Meeple here, back on the Insta Gamers Network for another exciting week. This week we're talking about multiplayer games that we prefer with 2 players, and this week I'm taking a look at Splendor. Let's go to the table. I'll give you a brief walkthrough of how it plays in case you're not familiar, and then we'll come back here and we'll talk about what I like and why I like it so much as a 2-player game as opposed to multiple players. Splendor is a game for 2 to 4 players ages 10 and up that plays in about 30 minutes, designed by Marc-Andre and published by Asmodee. It is also the this was the 2014 Golden Geek winner for Board Game of the Year. Like I said, just play 2 to 4 players. However, I really like the 2-player head-to-head nature a lot better than the multiplayer 3 or 4 player game, mainly because it gives you a little bit more strategy in terms of paying attention to what your opponent's doing, kind of doing a little bit of chip counting. But in Splendor, you have a set of chips, red, brown, or black, as my daughter calls it, blue, white, green, and then you've got a set of gold chips that are meant to be your wilds when those are pulled. You then set up level 1, level 2, and level 3 cards and turn 4 cards of each pile face up, and in a 2-player game you're going to have 3 of the noble tiles that you will obtain throughout the game by purchasing cards. And in Splendor, when it's your turn, it's very simple. You either take gems or buy cards. Very simple. So when you're taking gems, you can take 3 gems as long as they are different colors. So I could take a green, a white, and a blue, place those in front of my player station. If there are 4 gems or more of a single color, you can just take 2. So maybe the second player wants to just take 2 red gems and add over there. Play is going to continue around the table with players taking gems. So we'll grab another gem here like this. So we'll throw these down here. And this player is going to grab some here. So we'll go ahead and we'll use 2 greens, blue. I don't have a red, so we're going to say I have a red. Now I've got a red. We'll use a red and a brown. We'll cash those in and we'll purchase this card based on the cost. 2 green, a blue, a red, and a brown. That will now stay in front of me. Now I have 1 permanent white gem, which basically means I can subtract 1 from any white cost on any cards for future purchases. Play is going to go around the table until 1 player has a total of 15 points. That is a combination of the points scored from the cards, shown here in the upper left-hand corner, as well as the noble tiles that are here. So in this case, in order to obtain this noble tile and score 3 points, I would need 4 green cards and 4 red cards that I've purchased from the slate of cards that are out here. So that's Splendor, again published by Asmodee, designed by Marc-Andre. Box says 2 to 4 players, a 30-minute playtime on it. The reason I enjoy this game as a 2-player game so much, first of all, just my personal situation. I play this one a lot with my daughters. We've played the 3-player variant, but a lot of times when the 3 players with the game, a lot of times when the 3 of us are together, though, we end up going into other games and playing other games. And so just from a personal standpoint, when I've got one daughter who's available to play games, the other one may be busy with homework, or maybe they're at a practice for band, or who knows what else, Irish dance. And I've only got one daughter. We usually break out Splendor. It's a great little 2-player game. A lot of fun back and forth. I play 2-player on the digital Splendor app from Asmodee on my phone as well. If I'm sitting in line somewhere or sitting at a restaurant, I'll play the digital version, and I play two-player against just a single AI. I really enjoy the two-player back and forthness of it. It gives it a little bit of a take that feel when you're playing just two-player, because you can look over across the table and say, okay, well, that person over there, I know they're going to buy this particular card that's going to score them 3 points, so I'm going to grab it and put it on reserve and take a wild token so they can't buy it, and I'll just hold it until I can buy it. So there's a little bit of take that, because it's all open information. You can see what gems your opponent's taking. You can see what cards they're buying. You can kind of work out in your mind, what cards they're shooting for based on the gems they're taking. So I like that little bit of take that element. You don't get that as much in a 3 or even a 4-player game, because it tends to be more in a 3 or 4-player game. You tend to be more focused on what you're doing, and it tends to feel more solitaire. It doesn't have as much of the player interaction. Obviously, Splinter's been around for a while. It's a great game. My family loves it. My game group loves it. Definitely check it out if you've not played it. It's a great little, fun little filler game. Like I said, 30 minutes and you're done. You can set it all back up and play it again. So that's Splinter. Thanks for taking a look here at the Insta Gamers Network. Again, we'll see you back in 2 weeks. And until then, I'm the Chubby Meeple. Keep gaming, friends.
My name's Annette, and you may know me as nettersplays. And today we're all talking about multiplayer games that we enjoy with only 2 players. And one of the games that I instantly thought of was the Castles of Burgundy. Now, the Castles of Burgundy is one of my favorite games because it's made from my favorite designer, Stefan Feld. Now, I love this game because it introduced me into the world of other European strategy-based games. This game is a game that I shared with my partner Mitch, and we really enjoyed it, and we really thought, well, what else is there? So this is the one game that kind of contributed to our interest in the hobby. So let me go ahead and show you a little bit about this game and why I like it as a 2-player game only. So here you have a setup of Castles of Burgundy for 2 players. This is going to be the main board, and this will be every player's individual board. So I'm not going to show you how to play the game of Castles of Burgundy, but I will show you how to fill in this board based upon the number of players. So for example, here you have these X's which have the value of 2. That means for 2 players you will only fill this out. For anything more, like for example 3 or 4 players, you will go ahead and fill out either some or all of the hexes. There are also spaces around the board which you will also fill out other different types of hexes. And of course, for 2-player game, you're only going to fill out the values that say number 2. After the players go ahead and fill in these hexes with the tiles according to the number of players, you also have your goods tiles that you're going to lay out. You're going to play a total of 5 rounds, and at the beginning of every round, you will go ahead and lay out all the good tiles that will be played for that round. So during the round, players will use whatever is laid out on this main board in order to take some of the tiles and place them in their estates. Every player will have their own player mat, and this is going to resemble their estate. All the different tiles that they acquire from the main board will go ahead and be placed on their construction area. This area will dictate what they can place in their estate. They will have to take another action in order to do so. And it's all color coordinated so they know exactly where to place it. Now the thing about this is it's all based off of the die roll. Every player will roll their own set of dice, and if they're the starting player, then they will also roll the white die. Based upon that roll, it will dictate what actions you can use, either pulling tiles from the main board or placing them in your estate. With the dice, you're going to also be able to take from the main board. But remember, with more players, there will be more tiles, which will create more options. Whenever there's more options, there's the probability that someone may take a long time to decide. When you're playing with 2 players, there are far less options to decide, and you can even plan out your next turn based on your die roll. Well, welcome back. So as you can see in Castles of Burgundy, it plays up to 4 players. However, I really enjoy it as a 2-player game only, simply because it takes a lot less time between turns. as soon as you play something, the other person can go ahead and try to figure out what they want to do as well. You can plan sort of ahead, however, it all depends on what is rolled next. So instead of you going ahead and figuring out what your best strategy is, by the time you're playing a 4-player game, you might not get what you really want by the time it's your turn. So in a 2-player game, you kind of have a little bit more control of the game and what you can strategize and what you can look forward to. So that's why I really like this as a 2-player game only. It makes it a lot quicker and it's a little bit more strategically sound for this game.
Hi, my name's Dave Adams, and you might know me as Nerd of Wisdom on Instagram. And today I wanted to talk about my favourite game that I like to play as a 2-player game, despite it being a 2 to 5-player game, and that is Eric M. Lang's The Others. And it... Hold on. It's a good game. This game was kickstarted by Cool Mini or Not, and it is a monster of a game, full of miniatures and player boards and tiles and all these kinds of tokens and things. It's just an absolute delight to put onto the table if you have time to put it onto the table. There's a little bit of setup involved. Now, I know that big games aren't everybody's cup of tea, but I really enjoy this one. It's a 1 versus all player game, kind of like the original Mansions of Madness. What that means is that there's one person that takes on a particular character, and that one person versus a team of players. So in this particular instance, the one is someone taking on the place of a particular sin, and they are trying to invade and destroy the world as we know it, and everybody else is on the good team, depending on which side you see it from. So as agents of the organization Faith, which is a ridiculous acronym which I'm not even going to go into, the story elements are okay. Now, I said the minis were good, didn't I? And have a look at that. That is pretty fantastic. Obviously, really great artwork has gone into this. A lot of time, effort. It's Cool Mini or Not, so you know they're not gonna waste their time making rubbish minis. Now, each sin, this one's Pride, is going to come with their own player board. It tells you which villains you're going to work with, who your team is, what your abilities are. Here's the Apocalypse tracker, and this is one of the things I really like about the game is that as you do your job as the sin and you start to achieve goals of killing off players and holding them off from stopping them from doing what they're supposed to be doing, you're going to increase this down this tracker, which just escalates the danger for the Faith players, and it gives you a lot more power as you go. You really feel a sense of impending doom as you're playing either with it or against it. Now, one of the things you're going to do after you've decided which sin you want to be is you're going to choose a storyline, and there are 3 main storylines you can choose from. You can choose a corruption story, and that's just about where you're trying to fend off corruption, and it's more about making those choices of whether you're going to allow corruption into your team or whether you're going to try and fend them off. Or you've got a terror story, which is just outright horror, and it's more of a brutal fighting based one. Or a redemption story where you're actually trying to help people out and trying to do something to transform the lives of others. Now, once you've chosen your story will tell you what your objectives are as players. So this is a very clever setup. It just makes it really clear, simple. On the back of your story setup is going to tell you how to design your board. Of course, it's a modular board. It goes sort of more in the line of your Zombicide. There's an example of the tiles right there. They go together. There's 4 different tiles, and they work the same as in Zombicide. And there's an example of one of your little guys. You can be a leader if you've got yellow. And here's your player board, and this is where I think some of the genius of the game comes in, because this is both your life tracker and your corruption tracker. If all of these are blocked up, and you're losing life if you have to put a heart in. That's an example of you losing life. When you get hit, you have to fill up a space, and when all the spaces are filled up, you're dead. And that seems like a lot of spaces to fill up, but there's also this other thing happening, the corruption. Now, when you go to do an action, when you're fighting someone or you're doing some sort of ability check, you can choose to take corruption, and that fills up one of the spaces on the board. And now you have two spaces filled up, and so that's less health. Now that's a hit to your health, and that's fine. Maybe you can handle that for a bit. The bonus, the good thing you get from that is that every time you do that, for that one action or turn, you get that bonus, which is you can roll an extra dice. Or if you do another one, now for that turn you get not just the extra shield, you get a shield or a defense, and to roll an extra dice. So as you move up the board, you start to get all of these effects whenever you take a corruption. So as you get up and you're trying to take on some big guys, this becomes quite tempting to just take that one little bit of corruption. But it can also lead to your ultimate death, because that starts to fill up pretty quick. So the risk reward is great in this, and as in a two-player game, when you're playing 4 characters, you're trying to make that balance happen, and it's I just find it really fun. I think it makes for a great time. If you're going to spend a few hours playing a game, why not make it this one? But look, if you get a chance and if you spend time developing the upper body muscle strength to lift this game, I strongly recommend the others. Until next time, I'm Dave Adams.
Hello, it's Lindsay here, or as you might know on Instagram, shinyhappymeeples, and this episode we're talking about multiplayer games, and I'm talking about Town Reloaded. This was a game that I chose to talk about for one of my early videos for the Insta Gamers network. I think it was thematic games we were talking about, but this time I wanted to talk about it in a bit of a different context because we're talking about multiplayer games. So 2 players plus, that play better with 2, and Town absolutely sprung to mind for me. I have played it with 5 players and 4. It is so much better just with 2. Just to give you a brief idea in case you don't know, Town is a living card game. You can start with the core set, which is this, and then there was loads of other expansions. It's no longer running, it comes to an end with AEG, but last time I heard, Pinnacle, who originally owned the game, they've now got the rights back, so they're going to be relaunching it, I think. So that'd be really exciting because I absolutely love this game. It is basically a card game where you're aiming for control and influence over the fictional town, which is Gomorrah, and you do this by playing your cards and having shootouts to one another and moving in and out of each other's deeds, attaching different cards to one another to create spells and hexes and weapons. With more than 2 players, it's very long. It goes on because it's kind of one of those games where it goes on for as long as it does. It can be half an hour, it can be 4 hours. You just never really know what's going to happen, especially when you're attaching card after card to one another, and during the shootouts as well, they can be pretty epic. And with 2 people, it's just kind of like mono dynamic, you know. It's a standoff between the 2 of you, and I really like that. It's a great game to play as a 2-player, and it does kind of work still with more players, but like I said, as well as being very lengthy, there is a lot of dead time for people that aren't involved in particular shootouts, because you call an individual person out. So say one of you's called someone out and the other's called another person out, then different people are going to be having different shootouts and not everyone's going to be involved. I absolutely love Town. It's one of my all-time favourites, and it's been a favourite for a few years now. This is definitely a game that you could play with multiple people, but it's definitely better with 2, in my opinion. That's me done. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and always remember to just subscribe and like, and if you want to go ahead and leave a comment, just let us know what your favorite multiplayer game is that you enjoy with 2. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye!